Not very far from the nice scenic creek over here. I'm not sure if you can see kind of tell there's a little bit of human stonework there. And we got some sort of little quarry here, and we're into some nice non-native Norway spruce trees growing here. So foliage is kind of flattened. They look very similar to red spruce, but you know, the bark's a little different, and just being I know where I'm at, I kind of know what's here. I don't see any pine cones. The pine cones are tiny for the native spruces, but Norway spruce have like 6-8 inch long pine cones. And there's this nice little gash here in the ground, I'm assuming from past mining operations or something, and because there are strip mines around here, and also sand and gravel quarry. Coming down to see, since it's after Valentine's Day, if anything's out and about yet. Some interesting icicles here. But yeah, nothing chirping and nothing swimming, so still a little too cold. Just strange, it's been a warm winter, and I've seen them out this early before, but I'm thinking with such a warm year, maybe things would come out, but I guess not. You can look back towards where I was out on top of a ridge up there. Just standing under some hemlocks. Nice one growing on a rock here. So they're a little harder to reach, so they're a little bit older. They're probably the parent trees of the smaller ones farther up. And for reference, right on the other side of that pile of dirt that somebody put there is that gash in the earth I was just looking at. Let me go over here without killing myself. A little bit better look at this tree. The bigger one out there. It's another neat, somewhat younger hemlock growing up on top of a rock. As I said, they don't do well underneath the leaf litter, but any place where some moss can grow, they'll get a foothold. And a couple more around here. Now this guy is a cherry birch. They look a lot like a black cherry tree, but a little bit different. Cherry tree by that size would normally have gone to the more platy style bark. Sometimes they're a little bit more peely shreddy than that. Yellow birch seems to be more shreddy. Sometimes yellow birch is a little bit grayish and kind of confusing. But yeah, I wish I could see the ends of the branches a little bit better. I'll see if I can find another one lower down. Look at the branches. Also, the birch trees tend to like rockier areas than the cherries. Not really a good hard fast rule because they're both fairly common around here, just all over the place. And I've been looking for this. This right here is a seed from a tulip tree. They grow in sort of like a little cone, it looks like, and then the scales actually are the seeds. They're kind of like the helicopters that people, or keys some people call them, that come off of maple trees, except for the wing is kind of turned the opposite way. So, and there's also that tiny little cone, is from a hemlock tree. It's actually what I'm under right now is a hemlock tree, so they are very small. And due to the leaf litter, not a whole lot of young ones, but sometimes you'll find them on these mossy spots. Either mossy rocks or mossy logs is where the hemlocks tend to take root. This guy's so old he's got moss growing on him, but that shows the size of a cone from a Norway spruce right underneath one, and you can see how they got the sort of droopy, hanging, weeping style foliage whenever they get bigger. So the mature ones that have these cones, they usually have the droopy foliage by that point. There's a couple more of the cones over there. These things can be really big, but here's another one. Yeah, that's probably at least 6 or 7 inches. I think the length of my hand's about 7.5 inches, so that puts perspective on it. And even though this is woods, in fact I believe this is considered a nature preserve, you can obviously tell that used to be a road there. I hope you can. Yeah, there's an abandoned rail down below this, a little bit lower, and so most of the world east of the Mississippi has been severely modified. Just a lot of people, they walk in the woods and they look at stuff that isn't native and they think it belongs there, and they see piles of rocks and they think they're natural formations when really they're tailings that somebody piled up when they dug for coal or whatever. And a little trickle of a creek here. I'll follow that down, I guess. Kind of see where the little side channel meets the other creek. Just some scenery. Even though I'm pointing out roads and dirt mounds and stuff, it's still nice being out here among the trees. Another hemlock. This one's got its cones down low enough you can kind of see how small they are. Still up over that creek there. Kind of interested to see what this place ends up being like in 100 years. Got this mix of oaks and hemlocks here. The hemlocks can't sprout in the leaf litter from the oaks, and the oaks can't grow in the shade of a hemlock. So will it stay mixed? Will it sort itself out in favor of one or the other? That guy right there seems to be one of the guys who was here earliest. He's one of the bigger oaks. But at any rate, moving on. Kind of surprised I'm not seeing more acorns, but these are the cups from the acorns for the chestnut oak. And that big old veteran there, that's a chestnut oak. You can tell by the really, really furrowed bark. Normally, because they're rather bitter and rather large, you'll see them sitting on the ground and they'll be sprouting about this time of year. But I haven't seen a single acorn yet. If I find one, I'll make sure I record it, but so far, nada. So notice the slope here is mossy because it's steep enough that the leaf litter doesn't stick. And where you find moss, you tend to find these seedlings of the hemlock. So at least on the edge of this slope, it looks like they're going to win the battle. Don't see any more, but yeah, there's 2 of them. This one and a smaller one right there. This is what's left of a cone from the tulip tree. See, it kind of looks, well, kind of pull it apart, but you can see the seeds there. The seeds will all be along this little thing all the way up to the top. So it looks kind of like a pine cone somewhat. That's actually the shape of the flower. They got really interesting flowers. They're kind of a yellow-green color. At least that's what I think. They're yellow-green to me. I'm slightly colorblind, so I see color, but I don't always see the same color everybody else does. So another nice beech tree. Some sort of little knot up there, but nice smooth bark, pretty good shape. You can see these roots here run real shallow, and you'll see other beech trees. You can kind of tell, you know, a lot of them they come off of the roots of another tree, and you'll see, you know, fairly large areas that seem like, oh gee, you got a bunch of beech trees, but in reality you've basically just got a bunch of clones of the exact same one. And a lot of times they don't produce a lot of seed because of that. They're all at least closely related, if not just all clones of the same thing for possibly acres and acres. I'll sneak down here. And right here we have a lonely and somewhat beat up mountain laurel. Fairly easy winter ID on this because it's evergreen. Kind of shreddy bark here towards the base, at least shreddy looking. And sort of small pointy leaves. The only other thing that's evergreen like this that's native would be the Rose Bay rhododendron. Sometimes people call them great laurel, rhododendron maximum. And those have bigger leaves and they're much rounder leaves. Sometimes even this late in the year you'll see good seed on these things, but I don't see any old flowers or anything. Yeah, he looks kind of old, but he looks like part of him died off a while back. And he also looks like he got smacked by this tree whenever it fell too. They normally don't grow that well where there's a lot of leaf litter. So he probably grew on a nurse log or something like that too originally. Don't see any other ones in this little spot here, but I know there's other ones in these woods. Some Christmas fern growing there. Kind of beat down by the snow and ice, but I call it Christmas fern because it's evergreen. Just another little creek valley going through there. This little trickle of a stream. It's over that way back towards the road again. Actually, I think that's the road up on top of the ridge there. Like the road, the one that I drove in here on. Well, I didn't drive quite this far down on it, but yeah. And down that way, that valley, Beaver Creek's down there somewhere. So, see what else I can find for you.